Hi, my name is Russ Aikman. I'm with DMAIC at the University of Texas at Arlington, and I'd like to talk today about a very basic question, which is, what is Lean Six Sigma? So if you look at a real high level, Lean Six Sigma is the integration of two very powerful continuous improvement methodologies. Lean, which is all about waste reduction, and Six Sigma, which is about the reduction of variation. Now, these improvements are done using a project-based approach. The typical process is a management team has a responsibility for selecting projects. That project selection is based on criteria such as strategic objectives and the potential for financial impact, savings or sales increases. Project teams are then assigned these projects and led by individuals who are trained in Lean Six Sigma. And then project sponsors play a key role in that they have the responsibility to provide resources to the project teams. At a real high level, that's how Lean Six Sigma works. Let's go into a little more detail now. I'm going to talk about Six Sigma. Specifically, the body of knowledge of Six Sigma was first developed by Motorola. Many other companies have embraced and expanded the body of knowledge associated with Six Sigma, most notably General Electric. And it involves using a number of different statistical tools, so it's a very data-based approach to problem solving. It works best with a combination of executive and champion level support. And the individuals, as I said, who are trained in basic and advanced problem solving methods, basic training covers those individuals are called green belts, and for individuals who go through the more advanced training are called black belts. So they have responsibility for leading these project teams. And the overarching idea or goal of a Six Sigma program is minimizing variation of the major business processes. Now, if you think about it, as it says, Six Sigma, it's a very fact-based approach, makes use of lots of data, and the whole goal, again, is to reduce variation of processes. So this data-driven approach, we talk about this with our Lean Six Sigma students here at University of Texas at Arlington, and the idea is that once you collect data about a process, once you get into the analysis of that, it's going to tell project teams where to focus their efforts. And this goal of reducing variation is going to lead to more consistent products or services for your customers. So the bottom line is that Six Sigma is not an approach that requires an increase in inspections or checks, but rather it's about finding real root causes and developing feasible solutions that can be put in place. Now, when you think about Six Sigma, one of the keys is to understand that this project-based approach is built around a five-phase approach to solving problems. And I'm going to talk about each one of these in just a bit, but at the end of each of these different phases, a formal meeting is held called a gate review. Now, the specific tools, the methods, the goals of each phase of the DMAIC process are different. And the first phase, we'll talk about each one of these in a bit, but the first phase is define, the last phase is control. And the control phase is very important because that's where we put in place the tools and methods to sustain the results from the other phases. Now, as I mentioned earlier, at the end of each phase of the DMAIC, a formal meeting called a gate review is held, and part of the gate review typically entails talking about the project status. Are we on track from a financial standpoint in terms of schedule? Do we need any more resources? At the end of the gate review, a decision is made. Are we ready to go forward to the next phase of the DMAIC process, or do we want to not go forward? We need to do some additional work before leaving the current phase. And then there's a third option, which is maybe we need to cancel the project altogether. So in talking about these five phases, a little bit more about each one. The define phase is all about defining the problem. What's the problem we're here to solve? What are the goals of this project once we solve this problem? What is the scope? Who should be on the project team? All the basics of project management are covered in the define phase. Now in the measure phase, it's all about determining where we're at today. So what is the current state of the process? And that's where we collect quite a bit of data and before leaving the measure phase, a baseline level of performance is established. In the analyze phase, our goal is to take that data from the measure phase and to determine root cause. So what are the major root causes of the problem we're trying to solve? Then in the improve phase, now that we know root causes from the analyze phase, we need to come up with appropriate solutions to address those root causes. And finally, in the control phase, we go forward with a full-scale solution that gets implemented, and then we also want to put in place controls, mechanisms, anything which we can put in place to maintain that improved process. So that's one of the most challenging aspects of any sort of change management is how do you sustain the results. Now this slide shows you at the top a very detailed list of the various activities which occur in the DMAIC process for each phase, and on the bottom are listed various tools. One thing we emphasize to our students here at the University of Texas at Arlington is that you only use the tools that are appropriate to the specific project that you're working on. So you're not required to use each of these tools. Now I want to talk about Lean in a little more detail. What we now call Lean was first developed by Toyota and other Japanese company starting around 1950, and actually it's still evolving. The body of knowledge of Lean is still growing, but in Toyota, they developed a lot of their ideas by going back to what Henry Ford was doing in the early part of the 20th century and then adapting those to the needs of a company in the middle of the 20th century. We talk about Toyota Production System or Continuous Flow Management or Flow Production. Those are some of the other names. And one of the key tenets of Lean is the idea of a systems viewpoint. And by that what I mean is that the goal of Lean is to optimize the overall system as opposed to any one step in the process or any one department. And of course that's what customers see, right? If they place an order, they see in essence all the different steps of the process have to be completed before they get their product or service. So again, the overarching idea or goal of Lean is the elimination of waste. When you think about different types of activities, they can be categorized into one of three different categories. Customer value add activities are those that are required to produce output and that contribute to customer needs. Non-value add required activities are ones typically that are not necessary to produce output, but perhaps are required for either some specific business or legal requirement such as a regulatory requirement. And then everything else, things that are not necessary to produce output, things our customers would not want to pay us to do, can be categorized as non-value add. So what we know is that typically for most processes about 90% of the overall process lead time is associated with activities which can be categorized as the non-value required or just plain old non-value add. And as you see in the bottom of this slide, the specific approach to addressing different types of activities very much depends on its categorization. When you think about the idea of waste, that the goal of Lean is elimination of waste, another way of talking about waste is this idea of non-value add. So part of what you're trying to do is to eliminate activities or steps that are anything that starts with this letter RE. So rework, retesting, rechecking, rewriting, retyping, dealing with returns, all of these things are forms of waste. So allow me to summarize. Lean is a discipline which is focused on improving process speed through the elimination of waste. Six Sigma, on the other hand, provides a methodology through the DMAIC process which is focused on reducing process variation with the goal of better quality and more consistent processes. And Lean Six Sigma provides a synergy of those two. We tend to see that a quality approach improves process speed and vice versa. Focusing on process speed enhances product quality. Thank you very much.